What's going on, guys? Zach Evnish here, ZachStrength.com. Going to be going live today with Matt Wenning on our Strong Life chat here on Instagram. Looking forward to getting some questions. Ready to rock the house. There he is, real Matt Wenning, on time. Love the punctuality. Here we go, big dog. Yeah, brother.
What's up, dude?
I love it. You're on time. Ready to rock the house.
Yeah, I don't mess around, dude.
Listen, Wenning Wednesdays.
That's right.
Good, man. Well, great to see you, my bro. So we're going to let people ask questions, of course, but when I texted you the other day, you said you're at the gym for a couple hours in the morning. So what's the scenario going in Ohio with all the coronavirus lockdown?
Well, with everybody else, I'm sure it's pretty crazy. My facility's a private facility, and we usually don't let any more than 3 to 5 people in at a time anyway, due to, getting that good coaching,
Sure.
one-on-one ratio. And most of the people that I'm taking care of right now are first responders, firemen, stuff like that need to stay strong during their job. So it's not so much general populations that we're messing with at the gym. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy scenario right now. There's not really a whole lot they're telling us as far as when we're going to be able to open back up or anything like that. So
They just extended the state of emergency until like June 6th here in New Jersey. So that makes things a little bit tricky. And I was thinking about you because a couple weeks ago, or actually probably like 6 weeks ago when this really started kicking off, the we got to get Matt back in here. He popped off, so hang tight, guys. He'll jump back in. There we go. Okay. Mike Fitch. Nice.
sorry, bro, lost you.
That's all right. So, Matt, a couple weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, the equipment companies basically they ran out of equipment. Rogue was, backlogged. My buddy at ironcompany.com, Elite, trying to think who else. I mean, the major equipment companies got, they got backlogged. And Rogue is known for shipping within 24 hours. What's been the response with people ordering belt squats, benches, and stuff like that from you? Did it bump up?
Well, we're a higher tier system and create a lot more customized shit. So we're always on time with stuff. We didn't get a huge spike in orders with this basically because we don't build normal gym, like garage gym equipment type stuff.
Yeah.
So, our stuff's 1/4 inch steel. It's all custom made. It's all custom powder coated. So we're kind of in a different price range than Rogue's basic like garage gym shit. We're more
Sure.
in pro teams now and colleges and gyms like yours and mine that are super professional and high grade. So although we do have a lot of people that order stuff for garage gym specificity, I mean, my equipment, because it's handmade in the USA and it's super crazy built, it's just we didn't really get a spike. We've just stayed pretty even keel on the equipment side of things. I would imagine that we would be able to spend a lot more or do a lot more business if we had a lot more lower grade squat racks and basic type training stuff, but we're more specialized. I think the market right now for cheap squat racks and stuff has just been overwhelmed with what I would consider not the greatest quality type shit, but so I'm not really even willing to venture into that side of the business per se. I just want to keep with my small custom stuff and custom make things for people.
Well, even the pro teams are not allowed. I got two buddies in the NFL, and so nobody's even allowed in the building. Even like my buddies with the Falcons and Georgia lifted the ban, but and NFL, he can't go and train his guys because that would be unfair advantage. So when the whole country is allowed to, then they'll be allowed back in the weight room. And he told me that a lot of the pro guys, some of them don't even have dumbbells at home.
Yeah, I think I think you're going to see a higher level of injuries this season if they start the NFL correctly, based on the fact that they didn't get a good training in the off season. But a lot of the top guys that are super serious about working out tend to find ways around that and don't necessarily train at the team facilities anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the guys are taking it super serious and busting ass. I'm sure they're figuring out a way, and they're in a different scenario than the normal people, because if they need something, I'm sure they can figure out a way to get it, and it's not a financial thing,
Yeah, I think the NFL, I don't know if it was across the board or certain teams, they gave the guys like a small budget, like $1,500 or $2,000 to go and buy something.
Yeah.
So one of my buddies at the university said, this is a pretty big D1 university, like each kid on the football team got like a med ball and then 3 bands, like a mini, a light, and an average. But look, you know what I would be doing now? What I've been doing for, almost 20 years is we'd be pushing cars and pushing trucks. We would be making equipment. Like, you know how to weld. And one of the kids I train, his dad is a welder. But all around me, like, I would just go to nearby. There's a place that welds like metal fences. I would just go and draw something up for them and say, guys, can you make this? Like, I would just find a way.
Yeah.
So it's
The hard part with that is, it seems like when I was experimenting building my own stuff, which I would still say, 6 or 8 pieces in my gym I actually made, is that the cost of steel is so high now that if you don't mess with it and you start wasting a lot of material, it's so expensive. Just the steel costs. So like the Wenning belt squat you have in your facility that we made for you, we have $1,050 in just the steel. So you can imagine if you make the wrong cuts,
you're screwed.
It's getting to the point now that you almost got to be a professional and buy the shit, because if you mess up some of the cuts or the angles to fix it, it's so expensive to do it right. And not to say that the average person needs anything that beefy, but point being is, back in the day, you could have went and got a bunch of scrap and welded some stuff together and probably made some pretty cool stuff. And it seems like today the cost of steel is so high to buy it that making incorrect cuts and incorrect welds is a very expensive ordeal.
My kind of thought I looked at it like an investment. So I said, all right, I want my kids to be able to use this. My kids are pretty serious about sports, and if you break it down to like the years that you'll be using something, let's say you don't own a gym. So the belt squat was like $3,000. If you just look at it like month to month, my kids are 11 and 13. They're going to use it till they go to college. We've got another like 8 years. It comes down to like $25. I don't even know. It comes down to less than that. So I look at things like that about what's the lifetime I'm going to get.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just training the body.
But that's the same thing that me and you look at with everything. If we're going to train, we're going to do it smart so we don't create injuries, so we can do it for 10 years, so we can be the best we can be when we're actually in our prime years, versus going, hey, I'm 16. I don't care where I'm going to be at 25, which is probably my prime, and then training incorrectly, or buying stuff that's just not going to last, and I'm going to beat it up, or it's not going to function the way it should. And
dude, you buy cheap. Listen, cheap things break. It's just that's the bottom line. You know what was a great, talking about the training? You posted a quote last week, something to the effect of, when you're 20, if you train as if you're 40, and when you're 40, you'll feel like you're 20.
Yeah.
That was great. So
that's a huge deal. I think, I'll tell you one of the biggest things, and this isn't a secret, I've said this a bunch of times on different podcasts, but one of the biggest things that was ever told to me was Ed Cohen was at the first meet I was at where I squatted 700. I was 21 years old. And he looked at me and he goes, Matt, you're going to squat 800 in 5 or 8 years if you can hold on and not get hurt. So the average person would have been like, what? I got to wait 5 or 8 years to get 100 pounds stronger. For me, I was like, hey, I like training. I like the grind.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, he says I can squat 800, so that's what I worked towards. And I made 800 by the time I was 23. But the point is my mind was already set that I was going to be in this for the long game. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have is That's why my knees are still good. My back's still good. My elbows are still good. Now, in reality, for the numbers and the amount of training that I put in, which is going on now 28 years and being top 5 in the world from 2004 to 2017. So before then, I was one of the top in the nation. But as far as top 5 in the world, I was top 5 in the world from 2004 to 17, and I'm still 100% perfect as far as joint health goes. And that's because I mean, obviously I wanted to break records and I wanted to be one of the strongest guys in my generation, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice my joint health or any of that other shit to be good that fast. I was like, I'm just in this for the long game, and I want to train. My favorite thing is to train, you know?
The tough thing is, I would say, like, my background in wrestling was like we were taught to just destroy everything. And so my training destroyed me in those younger years. Forced reps, high volume, forced reps plus negatives. You feel like, oh, you're working so hard, but you're just killing yourself.
Yeah, I think we all learned from that. I just got lucky that a lot of the guys that trained me when I was a kid always weighed on the side of caution. And at first, I thought when I was a kid that they were holding me back, but in reality, they were actually making me go to the highest level I possibly could. Now, whether they knew they were doing that or not remains to be known. But the point of it was, I remember the first guy that ever I walked into a YMCA, and this guy benched 500 at 181 body weight. That's an amazing bench press for anyone, let alone at a small city that you would have never thought guys were that strong. I just got lucky where I grew up. The guy's name was Tim Smith. And I remember asking him, because I was a big kid, and he first met me in 6th grade, and he thought I was in high school. And I asked him if I could bench press with him, and he said, if you can do a pull-up, I'll let you bench with me, once he found out I was only 12 years old.
Right.
Obviously, at 180-pound 12-year-old, I couldn't do a fucking pull-up. But I practiced and practiced and practiced until I could do the pull-up, and he saw that I was willing to work stuff that he thought I was just wanted to be a bench kid. You know, I mean, who doesn't want to have a big bench when you're, in your teens? And when he saw I practiced and tried and did a pull-up, I think in about 4 to 6 weeks, I got to where I could do a pull-up. He let me bench with him and taught me everything I knew. But the point is he was seeing if I was willing to work my weaknesses and willing to work things I didn't want to do in order to gain what I thought. And I took from that he wanted my posterior chain to be strong enough to be able to withstand bench pressing.
Yeah, it was a lot of things. He's seen if you're coachable.
Right.
If this kid's going to be a listener. And that's to me a big thing. You know, being this year I got hired at a high school full-time strength and conditioning. And I thought that with all the information out, the kids were going to be, when I came in, they would be training smarter. But they basically, getting a little feedback here from me.
No, you sound fine to me.
Oh, okay. So basically, they would do a couple crappy sets of bench, and then they would curl for like 45 minutes. And I was like, man, dude, I thought that with all the information they had, maybe they were, Louis Simmons always talks about who are their heroes. Oh, maybe they're coming across somebody who's got a lot of views on YouTube, maybe the right people. And they were just training like crap. And so it's been really interesting to see that we're still, the year 2019, 2020, still the same problems as those that didn't have the knowledge, like myself, early 90s, and just training the right muscles. Every muscle you can't see in the mirror, I always say, that's what has to be strong.
The problem is, Zach, is that it's not that the information isn't out there. It's that learning how to train smart is hard.
It's very hard.
Learning how to train smart is tricky, and doing stupid shit is easy.
You said that by the time you learn to train, you yourself have passed your prime. That's the majority of people. Once you figure it out, you can't really apply it to yourself because you've passed your prime.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the big thing is, you have to learn how to train smart. It's not easy. It takes a lot of research, a lot of time. You got to be around a lot of great mentors. You got to be around a lot of people that are willing to let you think you're setting yourself back in order to move forward. And that can be a tricky game. And, I was fortunate to grow up in the Midwest around Louis and around Tim Smith and around Ed Cohen and guys that were out of my, you know, at that time in my best interest. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely time for intensity, and there's definitely time for, you know, digging deep and doing shit you don't want to do, but you got to learn how to do it smart, because you only get one body. And once your joints don't want to do it anymore, it doesn't matter how much mental energy you have. If your knees are fucked and your back's trashed, you're not gonna make the gains that you want to make.
This is what I tell the kids when we're in the high school, because we have large groups, and just myself. There's no assistant there. I tell them, when you're choosing weights, you're going to make pretend you don't have a training partner. So if you're going for that, you have to know you're going to make it. So if I walk by you and I see you're going to squat 315, and I say, can you get that for the 3 or the 5 that we're supposed to? And you say, I think so. I don't have time for you to think. I need you to know. And if you don't know that you could do it, then you're just going to go light. You're got to pretend that there's nobody to spot you, nobody to save you. And that's, you know, it's just helped them make smarter decisions with what weight should I be using. And I tell them, forced reps makes you feel like you're working, but you guys are actually not getting stronger that way, because as soon as somebody touches the bar or touches you, they're doing the work for you. Although, I don't know if you ever read this article. It was from Bill Peanuts West, late 60s. He called it the touch system. So when you get to the heaviest weight, let's say you're squatting, I just put my hands on your chest. I'm not necessarily doing the work for you, but I give you the confidence, and it just helps you overload. Or let's say you're going to hit a heavy bench. I touch the bar, but I'm not lifting it. Although in powerlifting, that's not really where you want to be, because at your heaviest loads, you have to be able to know that you're going to do it. But I would teach them that method, because I remember when I was competing in bodybuilding at my heaviest weight, I would say to my training partner, just stay with me. And it wasn't like we were helping each other, but the touch kept my posture up. The touch of the bar keeps you driving. It's like little tricks to kind of give them the confidence to move heavier weight had worked.
Yeah. In theory, I mean, there's always double-edged swords to those scenarios. I mean, for me, the touch system of what you're talking about tends to, you know, overload the central nervous system sometimes more than it should be. So I'm saying that you can use that, but you have to be very careful when and how.
Correct.
I would say if you're going to do a touch supportive method style squat where you're pushing, you probably don't want to touch those type of systems for any more than 6 weeks apart. That would be
it's something that is like kind of like a rarity that you do. But I really have grown to the philosophy where I just tell athletes, pretend you don't have a spotter, because now you're choosing weights that you can handle, that you're not counting on somebody to save you. And sometimes I remind myself, I'm like, damn, at 16 I was pretty stupid too.
It's hard. It's hard. I always was a little nervous about getting screwed up. So for me, I always played the safe side. But, you know, at the end of the day, it always gave me probably the biggest numbers I could have ever accomplished, just by calculating and doing like what you're saying. Every time I stepped under a squat bar, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to get it.
Yeah, the confidence factor of knowing, you know, and also the mental readiness and the technical readiness of very heavy weights is something reserved for an advanced lifter. Most people don't know how to grind while also maintaining perfect technique. So the way I had to explain it to the kids is I go, guys, you're running and you start to get a little bit tired. Do you start running crazy, flopping your arms around? No, you push for technique. I go, so if you're benching and squatting and it's difficult, it's more important to hold technique. Or you're playing basketball, fourth quarter, you're tired. Do you start throwing it over your head like a soccer player? No, it's technique. So, you know, they don't understand that technique is strength.
Sure. I mean, and that's what the Soviets talked tons about, was always having technical max. So in max training, it was always what you could do with perfect technique, not what you could do at maximal strain.
And, you know, they also did that in sport. They took the advanced coaches and put them with the youth. So that's why in wrestling, they were sending kids who were teenagers to the Olympics, because by the time they were 15, 16, they were elite, and they had such great coaches. You know, America is now starting to really rival the main countries in wrestling, because now these former national champs and all-American wrestlers, they are coaching at the youth level and the high school level. So
Yep.
kids are getting better coaching.
Yeah, and the other thing that helps that tremendously was, back in the day, Soviet Union and all these other countries didn't have football to take a lot of the best athletes.
That's
now
right.
wrestlers know that if they're good enough, they might be able to make it to a UFC contract.
That's right. It's been
So
very, yeah.
it's helping the feeding system for sure.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, now there's even girls programs opening up in the Division I universities.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wanted to ask you about, Matt, because I don't think I've seen you guys put it into production, the 45-degree back extension, which I love. The one at your gym is monster. And I've got one in my Manasquan spot that you came to. And then luckily, a local university was getting redone. I picked up 2 of their glute ham benches, the
Nice.
pin movement, but I think that 45-degree one is just great because you could do one-legged back extensions. You could go heavy on the back extensions. So what's the plan? Are you guys planning to put them in production, or?
Yeah, we got one. We got the one at my gym that we've been used as a prototype.
Right.
And we can make them easily. We've actually messed around with doing it for a while. We just haven't had the chance because when we launched the new website, everything went directed towards manuals and developing the Patreon channel. Yes. And we kind of put the equipment development on the back burner to push that. So, right before you and I got on this talk, I've actually been working on a hypertrophy manual that I've been playing around with for years. Well, I finally decided I'm going to take myself through the 12-week cycle of this hypertrophy training.
Test it.
Every manual that I put out, I have had extensive, multiple years of understanding and training. So every program that's in my manuals, I've done personally, or I've had multiple people do consecutively to where I get what I need to put in and take out. So the hypertrophy manual was one of those times where I just said, okay, look, me and Stan Efferding both sat down and decided we were going to do a big hypertrophy weight gain block. And so if you look at some of his training and what he's doing now, what I'm doing now, we're doing very similar stuff. So this 12-week block that I'm putting together is for that. So I'm writing all of the hypertrophy methodology and, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy and putting it all together. So that way somebody has a really quality understanding of how to gain more muscle size. So once I get this last manual locked out, then my focus is going to go back towards building some new equipment. We have a Gen 5 belt squat coming out that has more accessory pieces to it that I've been playing with for years. I've just never had a chance to put it in production. Right. But the 45-degree back extension is going to be cake. But I think the big problem you find with most of these companies is that because they're trying to make it cheaper, they're making them smaller, they're making them less strong. They're not putting the time and effort and energy into the pieces that need to be done. But then again, on the other side, they have to follow the market. I mean, I'm going to build a 45-degree back extension that's probably going to cost more than most companies make. But to me, like you, I build stuff as an investment. So for me, when I put together a 45-degree back extension, I don't want somebody to ever say, I wish that was built stronger or better, because it's not going to be possible.
Yeah, when my kids were young, it was actually when we had Hurricane Sandy here, we went to Lancaster where the Amish are.
Yeah.
So we bought a big playground swing set from an Amish guy. I said, how do I upkeep this? What do I got to do? He said, your kids, grandkids are going to be able to play on this. He goes, just every other year, if you want to stain it and paint it, you can. He's like, but this thing's going to be going for your great grandkids. Yeah. And that really hit me off because I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to build something I want to utilize and buy stuff that doesn't break.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you don't realize the importance of that until you get super strong and you start what normal companies would consider abusing the equipment,
or high volume of people using it, I train groups at the high school, 35 to 75 kids. So, we have 2 glued ham benches there. So I say, your goal is to sneak 1 or 2 sets in before we leave. I'm not gonna be able to really program it for all you guys, but kind of in between here and there, if you could get 1 or 2 sets, it's gonna add up. You're gonna get 10 to 15 reps,
Sure.
and it adds up. So if you could get 1 or 2 of them in a facility,
Yeah.
and you let the athletes sneak in, it builds
Yeah.
up over time.
Well, then you know how I am. I mean, everything that I do has got a traction to compression ratio to it. So anytime a strength coach or a home gym owner can put more stuff in that's traction based versus compression based, I'm a humongous fan of it because of less mileage. And that's
Right.
where I think is such a missing cue for a lot of gym owners is they just don't get that point no matter how much I talk to them about it. I'm like, how do we figure out a way? I mean, I think there's a lot of different systems and ideas that get people stronger, no question. But which system gets somebody stronger and relies on less compressive forces and reduces mileage while improving muscle strength and performance? That's the system I want because that's the one I'm going to be able to do for life.
Yeah, we got a question here, Matt.
Yeah, let's
And
do it.
I've answered this before on many podcasts. Our friend here, USMC 2025. What advice would you give someone that wants to start my own small garage gym? I've learned a lot from both of you guys. I'm 45. I've got the ISSA cert. I feel like it's too late. So I'm 44. And you want me to kick this off, or you want to give them a little advice? Where did you first start your own facility? Were you at a different spot than you are now, or where was it?
No, I was at the same spot that I was at.
Okay.
I started it in 2010, but I had moved over to Ohio to train at Westside in 2005. So for that 5 years, I was kind of training at Louis' place and another gym down south, and then started my place in 2010. The biggest thing that you can think of when you get older is, one, it's a constant fight to sustain mobility. Two, we don't really know what kind of mileage you have pre-45 asking this question. So if you're 100% fresh with no injuries, and that's a great sign. But basically, you need to know, just like my training methodology is, you need to know where your weaknesses are. You need to know how much time you can, give to the workouts, and you need to know how much intensity you can actually sustain. That's the thing, is you can write the baddest fucking workout in the world, but if you can't sustain that workout, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing with the nutrition plan. You could have the greatest nutrition plan in the world, but if it's not sustainable for somebody, it's not going to work. So what you have to do is figure out what your goal is, what you can afford to buy, and where your weaknesses are, and what you can afford to give up as far as time and energy, and then create what garage gym fits those needs the best versus having a very small pinhole view of, well, I need everything that Matt has or Zach has in his gym, or just fuck it, I don't want to do it. That doesn't necessarily work that way.
Yeah, it sounds like he wants to start the business side of things. And what I've said to people is, you got to prove. There's so much competition now that a lot of times the consumer, sometimes they don't know the difference. So what I've told people is, look, you got to prove that you can get results. So how do you do that? You get 6 or 8 friends, and you say, I'm going to take you through a 6 or 8 week training plan. And we're going to take before photos, midway photos, after photos. You're going to follow my program, my nutrition protocol. Everybody pays $50 or $100. Whoever gets the best transformation gets all the money. Now you record, you build media, you've recorded stuff, and now you have proof that you can deliver results. And look, whether you have a certification from ISSA, or it doesn't matter who you're certified from, you have to be able to deliver on results. So I tell people, never make the jump. Don't just go opening up a legit warehouse gym and start going crazy on stuff. Matt, this is the next good question for us. You and I spend a lot of time on this. How do I fix shoulder impingement, and how long should it take to fix, because my physical therapist protocol is not working as fast as I think it should? So I've got some good quick tips on that, but let's hear, what do you do? Because you deal with a lot of people who have the shoulder impingement.
Well, the first thing we do is we enhance and strengthen the rear delt, the rhomboid, the lower trap, and all scapular muscles. Most people that have a shoulder impingement issue tend to have an issue with some sort of weakness in their upper back or their posture. It could even come from their neck. With that being said, the next thing you want to do is increase rotator cuff, both mobility and strength. Those things are massive in reducing the injury, the pain, and all the bullshit in that. The next thing is you want to make sure that your pressing movements, if you're a workout person, you want to make sure that your pressing movements are minimalized and rotated constantly, meaning
Yes.
a lot of people that I see with shoulder impingements, when I ask them to lay out their workout, they have too many of the same exercises too often. And that causes a lot of mileage in one particular area. And that's why it's so important to have rotation in your training: incline, decline, flat, kettlebells, bands, chains, bars. All these things need to rotate and change. And a lot of that's not just due to the fact that I think it's a better long-term performance enhancer, but it also is a mileage reducer. So a lot of people with impingement issues have too many of the same movements in the exact same movement pattern.
Yes. And then, guys, I'm also going to refer you to Matt's YouTube channel. One of the most important things to being healthy is figuring some stuff out on your own and doing quality research. So you're going to go to his YouTube channel and just dig through the videos. Some other things that I love to do, we do this throughout the day, throughout a training session, is dead hangs. And we don't, like Matt said, just like we switch the bar and the movement pattern, we switch how we hang. So we hang from rings. We have palms facing towards us, away, internal rotate, external rotate. We hang from neutral grip bars, wide grip, close grip. So a lot of dead hangs to create some distraction. Ton of the upper back work, like Matt was saying. A lot of face pulls, pull aparts. And I found that the pec minor, when the pec minor is too tight, you start feeling that impingement. So Matt utilizes squashing. You need to do a soft tissue self-myofascial release. Smash that pec minor into like the edge of a dip bar, lay on your back, roll the barbell over the pec. Chris Duffin over at Kabuki's got the pain pill. There's a lot of methods to open up the pec minor, which sometimes causes that frontal position. Okay, next question. What are some of the examples of less compressive training methods? And I'm looking to gain strength for wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, if you don't have access to specialized equipment, you can train, especially as a wrestler, train a lot of isolateral movements. Isolateral movements are going to cause a lot of muscle hypertrophy and strength and power with less compression, because obviously you can't do as much with one leg as you can two. So when you talk about traction compression, sometimes if you don't have the right equipment, you might have to just be looking at less compressive. So what we utilize, and Zach's got one at his gym, is we utilize belt squatting. Instead of deadlifting all the time, we use specialized Good Morning machines, 45-degree back extensions. Those things are going to cause the muscles to have to grow in the same plane without the vertical compression. Yeah. So anything that's pushing down on you vertically is going to cause more compression. And a lot of, if you're wrestling and if you're at high school level or even college, they tend to use plyometrics and jumping too often with less or no maximal strength training. So what you might want to find is that you got to include plyometrics in your compressive movements. So just try to find ways to either do things less compressive or traction based.
I've also found that in the wrestling, even at the Division I level, they're just training wrong. They're constantly doing circuit work, whether it's the off season, the in season. It's like repetitive conditioning and muscular endurance work. And so the technique tends to not be so good. Even with box squats, which is compressive if you've got the bar on your back, they're doing it as a bounce or a touch go versus a sit and, let the hips have a slight relaxation. And then some other things are built, make yourself a sandbag. You can squat and do good mornings with the sandbag. You can squat from different positions, but it's not as heavy if it's on the shoulders. And it's in that Zercher position, which causes more of like a isometric, I hate using the word core, but it makes your trunk work in a more stabilizing fashion. And I think that's a real good benefit for wrestlers and a lot of the isolateral work, like Matt was saying.
Yep.
Next question, pretty obvious answer. The guy's saying, there's a lot of so-called powerlifting coaches out there. This guy's fairly new to powerlifting. How do you identify a legitimate coach who knows his stuff versus, like a BSer? So, I mean, I would look, everything comes down to results. What has this person done? So Matt always says he's got the numbers and the education. He's got the science and the practicality of experience. So he's been a world record holder, a master's degree, and that's what I think you really want to look for. It's very important, obviously, to have people with the in the trenches experience, but if they don't have enough of the educational background, they tend to be a little bit too like rogue, very wild, and they cause
that's the thing. I'm right there
long.
with you. I call it the 3 pillars, and 1, education, and I'm not saying that one is more important than the other. 1 is education, 2 is numbers, right? Creating results. 3 is longevity. So has this person been in the game for a long time? Time usually tells who's the smartest and who is the strongest, right? So if I'm a strong guy and I went to school and put my money where my mouth is and I've done it for a long time, those 3 things are irrefutable.
Yeah, I love it. You have to use common sense when you're basically looking at people. And then it's like the equipment. If I'm buying cheap equipment, it's not going to cost a lot. If I'm working with a pro, it's gonna be a bigger investment. But I always ask people, why do you want a discount for your own health? Like, what are you valuing your health at? What if it's $50 less per month? What does that actually do for somebody? If you're worried about $50 per month, you have bigger problems than needing, a professional coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's exactly true.
If you're worried, hey, it's going to be $200 a month to do online coaching with me. Hey, can you do it for $150? No, because $50 is like $12 a week. It's nothing, I mean, in 3rd grade, I was making $26 a week with a paper route. So when an adult is struggling for that extra 50, I say, come back to me when you got your finances squared away. And that's part of being strong also.
Yeah.
Is like not having kind of commanding your financial, owning your finances. That's
and I
also
think that's a big issue that we have right now, with especially people that are involved with strength training. Strength training doesn't tend to kind of bring about people that have all of their shit together. It's funny how much hate I get for now only trying to answer questions on Patreon, where you have to pay to come and have email access to me. And the real reason I started it was to help kids that have disabilities. That way their parents and people that have real problems that can't help it. Like,
that's right.
The kid Trey that I train,
Amazing.
not only he has spina bifida, but he was born with a brain tumor. And so I want to get to the point where I don't have to charge his family 1 cent for him to come in. And I feel like if people are asking me questions and doing stuff like that, I want to attract the people that have their shit together,
I think these are certain things that people don't see. Now, when a school administrator reaches out to me, or somebody tells me, look, we can't afford it, and they legitimately can't afford it, then I just scholar that person.
Yeah.
Although there are things that they need to do. Show up early, be on time, be consistent outside of the gym. They have like a little agreement that it says your excellence is expected not just in athletics, but also academics and social life. And so if they don't follow through on that, we don't work them. But I also I know people that pay, they pay attention.
Yep. Dude, all of the clients, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this, all of the clients that I've ever done for cheaper have always been the biggest pain in the ass.
Yeah, we're trying to help them. And I'm telling you, it always comes down to like this $50, or in the grand scheme of things, even $100 a month. If I discount some it's nothing. It's $25 a week. It's like $4 a day. These are not make or break factors. And I also think, as strength, if you are a strength coach listening, watching, that's part of being a professional, is
Yeah.
that I know when I go to eat at a restaurant in town, you know, you came here, it's a small town. I never say, do I get a discount because I live in town? But people always who live in town, they think like, hey, I live here. Now I get a discount. Well, it would make more sense to me to give a discount to the person driving an hour each way than the
Yeah.
person
Oh, I know. I know,
who
man. It's
lives in
crazy. It's
town.
crazy how it works, but that's definitely the case.
It's just a weird mindset. I think that training, Matt, the way we've been brought up, was we were taught that, okay, you want to bench with me? You have to earn it. You have to do your pull-ups. We were taught at an early age, anything we want of value, we have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I love that. I'm going through some of these questions here. Uh, another, another question was, do you think AMRAPs have a place in powerlifting, like as many reps as possible? I don't know if we can look at that as like a single exercise over time or 3 exercises in 10 minutes, but for powerlifting specific, would you utilize an AMRAP?
My opinion is on a core lift, i.e., squat, bench, deadlift. Absolutely not.
Good.
That lift is designed, in my opinion, to be a quality lift that you teach to never fail and that you teach to always be explosive, never conserve. So if you think about it in that perspective, if, and you know, you guys might see me now because I'm doing a hypertrophy cycle, but Zach, me and you have been friends for a decade, and you hardly ever see me do anything over 3 to 5 ever.
I was actually thinking that, but I know, you know, you posted this is a hypertrophy phase, and doing high reps on the big lifts, when you start doing it with frequency, they will beat you to shit. They will kill
Yep.
you. They will
Yeah,
kill
they'll
you.
kill you. The short-term gain is not worth the long-term beatdown. In
Yeah.
my opinion, when you look at a lift as a skill lift, you never AMRAP a skill lift because technical proficiency will decrease, and that is going to decrease the total amount of weight you can lift. So
Yeah.
stay away from AMRAPs on core lifts and specific lifts that are competition style lifts, and make sure you can do AMRAPs and burnout sets on tricep push downs and
Sure.
fucking hamstring curls, but
Right.
you don't want to mess around with that stuff with the core lift. You want to teach your body specific ability to be able to punch and not conserve, but expend energy in short periods of time, and that'll be your best bet to high PRs.
And this kind of goes back to what I was saying with what I've seen some of these D1 wrestling strength coaches do, is they're just doing everything for time and AMRAPs. And so moves that require a lot of technical proficiency, you don't want to be beating the crap out of them. The technique goes to crap. It actually doesn't improve your performance. It makes you feel tired, but I could get that effect by wrestling hard and drilling hard. Or if I'm playing football, we're going to run the drills hard on the field to develop the endurance, but I'm not going to kill your body with those big lifts. It's just not going to work. You could do in, you know, this is not powerlifting, but in strength and conditioning, you could do cluster sets where you're doing something on the minute, but you're not, you gotta like really keep tabs on the volume.
Yep.
And you just can't kill the big lifts because they will kill you. And when they kill you, everything in whether it's powerlifting or sports performance is what is the ultimate performance factor. So if what I'm doing in the gym is going to take away from my performance, my competitive performance, then you're doing it wrong. You have to adjust.
Yep.
And
Yeah, and the key is not
unfortunately,
adjusting, is figuring out how to not adjust, you know. And one of my favorite sayings to ever use is consistency beats intensity.
truth.
So if you smash yourself on a squat and then 3 days later you can't squat again, the person that left a little bit in the tank every time and didn't do AMRAPs and worked on quality technique is going to have more squatting poundages in that month or 6 months or a year than the person that tries to burn themselves into a fine crisp every time they go and lift.
I like it. This next question, Matt, from Gabe. Is it true that you should not train to failure because it gets your body used to failing in the lifts? Go ahead, and what do you think of that?
In the core lift. So that's a
Yes.
failure, in my opinion, is very similar to AMRAPs. So I don't take anything to fail. If you guys get my powerlifting manual off the website, what you'll notice is that when I talk max effort, I talk 90 to 92%, never 100. The 100% is always safe for competition. And I learned that from 10-time world record, world champion, Larry Pacifico. He would talk to me and Louie all the time when I was at Westside, when he would come from Dayton, and he would say, "Hey, Matt, you know how I became a 10-time world champion?" I'm like, "How's that?" He goes, "I went to there to win. I didn't go there to kill myself." You know?
Yeah.
So the point is that I never fail. I mean, you're going to very rarely see me in a gym lift or a comp lift fail.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen you. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen you fail.
Yeah, but isn't it ironic that I never fail and have 3 world records? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's,
So
and the thing, it's marrying what, like, your mind, you have to discipline your mind. You,
yeah,
you get caught up, you start looking at your Instagram or YouTube and you start seeing people doing crazy shit. I bet you Instagram has caused more injuries than like anything else because people are trying to pull off a video that's going to give them more likes, more views. And I think that's probably damaged a lot of people's bodies.
guaranteed, guaranteed. It was funny because I think that as much as social media has brought about more education, as you're finding out at the high school, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
The smart stuff's not getting picked up. It's the dumb shit, and the ego is 10 times worse than it was when we were coming up. Because when
Yeah,
we were coming up, we compared ourselves to our small class of people that we were around all the time.
that's
There was
right.
no internet. But now you're comparing yourself to everybody in the world. So the ego bar is set way higher for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it messes with a lot of people's mindset. There's a good question here about where did this go? Marshall asking, what are your thoughts on programming for sled work? Somebody else also asked that because they saw you and I both. I utilize sleds constantly. So let's talk about how you're utilizing sleds. Do the fire departments you go to, are there sleds? Do you have turf in there? I don't think I've ever seen, but you guys do the non-motorized treadmill. What
Yeah.
do you guys
We,
have
we do a
there?
lot of Jacob's ladder.
Yes, that's
We
right.
do a lot of treadmill with it turned off. And you got to remember, because we're in Ohio, similar to where you're at, we're only able to really train outside about 6 months of the year. So I have to have
Not
stuff that
even,
can be
yeah.
usable all the time. And I don't know what the
Right.
weather's going to be like the next day. So it's
Yes.
one of those things that, we like to use. But the reason that I like using sled work is because it's, again, less compressive and almost more traction based. If something's pulling backward and you're going forward, then your lumbar spine's getting a little bit of relief. So I like using it as a traction drill for GPP based on the fact that I can get a lot of work with minimal mileage. And that's what is the whole name of the game.
Yeah.
But
There's
we
also
use it.
specificity with you using Jacob's ladder. There's a specificity that gives them confidence with climbing stairs, climbing ladders.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things that I think is a huge proponent of getting better. And I think that because they're not a lot of material, anyone can afford to have a sled. The other thing is that that GPP is crucial for almost everybody's endeavors, no matter what their sport is, powerlifting, wrestling, sports. It doesn't matter. The sled has its place based on the fact that you can get a lot of muscular work with very minimal mileage, and that's the point.
Right. So real quick, the way we will utilize it is we will utilize it during a warm up. And then at the end of the workout, we're going to implement it. I'm getting a lot of feedback. You hear me all right, Matt?
I hear you fine, but your
Okay.
pause doesn't stop.
All right. So I'll utilize it according to what the athlete needs. So if he's lacking strength, he's going to use heavy sleds,
Yeah.
but we'll also get in some speed sleds. If he needs or she needs more muscular endurance,
Yep.
lighter to moderate weights,
Yep.
multiple trips at a time. So, looking at what are you weak at, work those weak areas, but also don't overdo the same stuff. So if you're always going heavy, you're going to have to go light and get some speed work. If you're
Yeah.
always going forwards, what about lateral sled drags? What about different positions? Bear crawl position, drive from the balls of the feet, pull with the heels. Just getting the body strong from different angles so you're not overusing it. And then, Gabe has asked, guys, if you missed the beginning of the chat, just catch the replay. we spoke about shoulder health. Matt has multiple videos on shoulder health, so you're going to go on his YouTube channel to check that out. And I'll see if anybody's got another. Matt, has there you've been doing some lives and podcasts lately?
Yeah.
Have there been any questions that you wish like people would ask you about, but they're not? Maybe they don't know you do certain things, or they don't address certain topics with you.
Like, give me an example.
Anything. Like sometimes people ask me a lot about business, and I'm like, man, it's interesting that they ask me about business when I always feel like they should be asking me more so about training,
Yeah.
So do you think there's certain questions people are kind of breezing over, like maybe they're not asking you a lot about? Maybe are you not getting a lot of nutrition questions? What's certain questions you think people should be asking more about?
That's a great question, because I think everybody would have a different question,
Yes.
thought process based on where their education level is, their experience, or their previous or acute injury. A lot of people wait to ask a question when it's too late. Instead of asking questions when they should be. We should always be trying to prevent injury and prevent, acute issues. But the problem is we usually don't think about them until they're a problem. And that's where I think that people really miss out, is I get so many people asking me how to fix something when it's already fucking broke versus trying to train smart when it's not broke.
I think that is the ticket. If I could go back and change training I did in my teenage years, there would be no forced reps.
Yep.
I trained at a gym. Most gyms back then did not have specialty bars. Maybe you saw a safety squat bar, a Hatfield bar. No Swiss bars. You got, of course, all the different bodybuilding machines, but you're constantly on a straight bar. So what I do now at the high school is, all right, we've got a straight bar. We're going to go through a cycle of front squats, cycle of back squats, cycle of Zercher squats, dumbbell goblet squats, pause squats. Different positions, different foot positions. But the big thing to me is shoulder health, is because that's where people are getting beat up. And I feel like the straight bar is kind of like the killer behind it. We pick up.
Well, the problem is it's not the straight bar, it's the straight bar too often.
Straight bar too often. So this Monmouth University, getting that new weight room, I was able to pick up the 2 glued hand benches and 2 Swiss bars. So the way it works is, if we're going through a bench cycle, if you use the Swiss bar last week, a different group gets to use it this week. And then teaching the kids how to switch up their grip. Most people tend to go pretty wide.
Yeah.
So we've done shoulder width, which is our close grip or slightly outside shoulder width. And so you have to, going back to what I said earlier, your health is an investment. So if you're like, I don't want to buy that bar because it costs this much, you make an investment now so you're not paying for it later.
Well, and if you think a squat bar is expensive, go get a fucking shoulder surgery.
That's right. And nothing is the same after surgery. It's really not.
No, let's take into account, most people know, it's been a while now, but most people should know the name Eric Spoto. What happened to him when he needed shoulder surgery? Gone. The best bencher in the world, and he's gone.
I was thinking about some of the guys who I don't see. I don't want to mention any names because I don't know what their situations are, but I was seeing certain guys for 2 or 3 years, but no more.
Yeah. I'd have to know who you're talking about to know for sure, but like Spoto, he had to get rotator cuff surgery, and he's gone. The guy's been 732.
Once you have rotator surgery, you're probably not going back for a world record.
No.
Okay,
no,
so
that's what's crazy.
All right, my man. So you're about to eat. Let's close out with this, man. I saw you upgraded some of the manuals. If looks like we've got kind of a lot of general strength enthusiasts. What would be the recommended starting manual, or would you say Patreon channel?
Well, if you're looking at long term, you want to do Patreon channel at the higher tier because you get all the manuals for free. They give them to you in sections for free over time. Plus, you get so much better deals. You can email me at any time and ask questions. We give a lot of the sample workouts, and you get to see my workouts every freaking week. I lay them out on Patreon. You can see exactly what I do, all the way down to winning warm-ups, sets and rep ranges, why we do stuff, etc. But the powerlifting manual is more of my history of explaining of how I learned what I learned and why I had to step up to those different ranges in order to make the progress that I wanted to make. Those are massive. But if you go on winningstrength.com and you want to mix and match a little bit of strength training with what I've learned with tactical units like fire, police, military, and how to mix strength training with running, which I think is very, very confusing for a lot of people. They overdo too much of one or the other. We found some really good regulations to follow in that tactical manual based off the work I did with special ops.
Yeah. And for those guys, that is also about longevity.
For sure.
I just put inside my membership site a manual to prepare you for police academy, which would not look like what we do once we're hired. Completely, you're trained for the test, like study for the test. I'm right next to, actually, when you came out here, like a couple blocks away is the state police academy. So when there's an academy, what do I see them doing? Distance running, push-ups, crunches, and burpees. Is that what you want to do when you are on the job? No, because they're kind of shuffling the feet. You're doing a lot of high rep, shitty technique stuff. That's not going to help you when, there's in our
when you
town,
train, you hit it right on the head. When you train to get into something, you need to train for what they're testing for. And then when you get in, you need to train smart because you're in that job for 25 or 30 years.
Right. Like you said, when you worked with the Rangers, we don't need to see if they're tough. They already are tough. And so, Gabe was asking, Matt, have you worked in the SEAL teams or only at Fort Bragg? Guys, one thing you have to know is some of the SEAL guys, they go in and then they go through Ranger training. They become Rangers and vice versa. Sometimes they they want to experience other units.
We have worked, so I've worked with Ranger Regiment at Fort Benning. I have worked with 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg. I have worked with 3rd Group Special Forces as an advisor at Fort Bragg, 10th Group Special Forces at Fort Carson, 4th Infantry at Fort Carson. And we wrote workouts online for SEAL Team 3. So we've got a pretty extensive amount. And then I've also wrote and instituted workouts for Israeli Special Forces.
That's interesting stuff. My brother was in one of the special forces out in Israel, and told me like what it took to earn the beret. And then he came to, when he came back home, he became a captain in the United States Marines. And he was like, man, the interesting thing about in Israel and the special forces was like they just tried to physically destroy you to just like make you to see how tough you were.
As far as I have heard and know, Israeli Special Forces and Spetsnaz, old Spetsnaz group in the Soviet Union, those dudes are a whole different level.
Yeah. Matt, I got the countdown timer going here on Instagram. This has been great. WenningStrength.com. Go to ZachStrength.com. Matt, you're the man. Talk to you soon,
All right, brother. See you, homie.
Later, bro. Bye.